Well, we did this math at the meeting the other day. If you want to repeat it, we can do it again, but I didn't bring it with me. It's 275 less 135 less whatever's in this year's budget, less what was in the budget for swing sets, and you're left with about $43,000 unbudgeted. I've added that to the budget so we can approve alternate.
Are you looking to approve the 4 courts or the 8?
You said
Or
4.
pickleball.
I just want to be sure I was clear.
If you want to do 8, you've got to add a bunch more.
How much is
How
on?
much?
I don't know. This is my
Well,
suggestion.
what is in this budget, as far as I can tell, is 2 and 4. Is that correct?
No, you need the 45.
Well, forget the 45. Okay, we need the 45. I can see we need the 45. What's in this budget is that correct?
Moving forward.
That's what that's all I can see.
We only have,
I don't see any 4 and 8 or
We don't
2
have-
and 8.
in this budget, there's not.
There's not.
No, we have for this, what's that? Is that better? There you go. Okay. In this budget,
We have 35.
35, and that's for 2 platform courts. But let me confirm that.
No, actually,
It's under pickleball. Thank you. But if you recall, we were crafting this budget at the same time we were coming up with the overall plan for Mankling Meadows. So it's going to differ some because of that. The plan, we gave a breakdown to include 8 courts, to include the site work, to include the county work, the stormwater, all those things. They're not in this budget. And I believe that's where Marty's getting his number. Alternative 2 was for the 4 courts.
Yes.
So the 4 courts plus everything in the budget, plus where we are right now with playground, that's where that differential comes in.
I'm a little confused. Could you give me the dollar?
I can't. I didn't bring it. Marty
I
might-
didn't bring it
I
either.
didn't bring it either. It was around 285,000 is my guess.
That was to do all 8 courts.
No, 2.
3, it was, and I'm
That
sorry,
included
I didn't realize we were going. I went over in detail and handed out the board meeting,
Yeah,
so I didn't think it was going to be here. It was like 3 1/4 for 8 court. All in was 3 1/4. The reduced price was Marty's probably right, about $285 to do the 4 courts. That sounds about right.
And you took the 285, whatever that number was. There you go. You got it.
I've got
Oh yeah.
Yep.
If you take that number, which is how much?
Oh, here I can look at it.
Here, this
Which
is
one are you
all-
looking for? What number?
Two something. The whole all in.
273, 550.
You take that number and you deduct from that what's in this year's budget, meaning 1450,
135.
and I think we had some. Did we have swings in that?
With 31 in this year's budget.
Look, in
Yeah,
the
30.
2 budgets combined, and you subtract what we got, we're short 43 something.
I
So
think that sounds
I
accurate.
suggested that we add the 43 something
He's right.
in order to have it in the budget.
I understand.
Because I, as you know, won't vote for it.
If it's not in the budget, I understand.
I want to see the whole thing in the budget. How much is the whole thing in the budget? Get the program done at one time because I think less money.
What you said, 325.
Well, it's 273, 550 was our working number, and the full one is 339, 550. Whatever that difference is would be the additional to Marty's 45.
That's 66.
There you go. That was
66,000.
on top
Plus, okay,
on top of Marty's,
Top of
right?
45.
Yeah.
So $100,000.
Talking about
Adding Marty's in, it's more like 160,000.
No.
look,
45,000.
You said 339 for the full thing.
can I say something? I did my homework. I turned this in. Everybody's had it for at least a week.
You're
Now we're sitting here going, pulling stuff out of the sky.
I'm
If
just-
somebody
This is not
wanted
out of the
to
sky.
report,
These are the
Would you just
reports
be
here.
quiet for
why
a
didn't you put
second?
it in?
What?
Why didn't you put it in so we know what we're talking about?
No.
The point
I thought it
is,
was in there.
It
Yeah,
says
I've
in
looked
here,
through this.
alternative 2.
what page in the budget? this is your.
Yes.
I know.
For everything.
And then I asked the same question.
I'm the liaison to this, and the reality is that there have been two issues raised as to what to do. One of the options was to get the entire campus ready and build half the number of pickleball courts that all of the research and what our membership and our advisory committee have told us we need to build. And that's based solely on dollars, not on need. Well, people aren't going to pay attention to what I'm saying.
I'm listening, I'm listening.
Standing up. You're talking.
Okay, I'm talking, and here's the issue. I'm going to go back over it again. The issue was we have an amount of money that additive to it, about $43,000. You end up with, because of the new cost model that we actually got now for the whole campus, you can create and get the whole campus ready for all of the courts to be built at some point, including the future 2 paddleball courts down the road. You leave space for that. So you've managed the land better. The only thing that's really up in the air here, as far as I'm concerned, is to whether we go ahead and finish the other 4 pickleball courts or we don't. And that's an additive amount of money that would have to be added to next year's budget, which would take this project and lay it over 3 separate projects, 3 separate budgets in order to get it paid for. But again, I go back to service and what is needed. We know that the national standard for membership in pickleball is about 20 people per court. We already have more than 80 members fully paid as members of our organization who have paid. And now I've heard the argument, well, 19% of our membership, 30%, whatever it is, don't live here.
Tom, you're
I'm
just segueing into from trying to figure out what the numbers are into need.
I think that's.
I've heard that for months.
We've already been through the numbers before. The bottom line is we either build the whole thing. We want pickleball to grow. You can't grow a sport if people can't get on the court. So if it's X more money to finish the other 4 courts and finish all 8 of them, then that's what the number is in order to do it. We've already been told that the budget we have, which would include your 43, is already too small for the number of members we've already got.
Right.
So you can't add to a sport if people can't play, and there's no court to play on. So the question becomes, do you do the whole thing and build enough to truly build for the future and build for the growth? And it's a growth you're not going to get. It's very unlikely you'll get it if you build the darn thing too small. That's the only argument I want to make, regardless of what the dollars are. And they are like 60,000, I think was the number we came up with. That could be utilized to finish the whole thing and have it in place to take care of the growth that is coming. The growth won't come if you only build 4 courts. You've got your membership. It'll be backed up. Not everybody plays at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. These decisions are not always just dollars and cents. Some of it is a product that you're putting out there, and you want to meet the needs of the growth opportunity that's going on in the community. And you can't get growth if you don't make space for it. Okay? I just believe that the assessment here is not simply where are the dollars and what is the impact. It is what is the impact on the product and the service that we're going to provide to our members. And in my mind, I think you build the whole thing, you get it done. We now have a plan for that whole campus for utilizing all the dollars. You get to, what is it for?
I don't even know what the heck we have. I don't know what the numbers are. I want to find out. That was my question to begin with. I don't know. Can I ask Bob, sure, what's in this budget?
What's in this budget?
We're talking about platform tennis.
$35,000.
For what?
Is in this. Just a minute.
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
trying to listen to everyone and make sure I get all your questions. We had,
It's under pickleball, page 4.
The capital bottom.
General.
You also got some money.
right,
Correct.
35 is in this budget, proposed budget. Pickleball courts, 35,000. Now, please understand that this was built before we finalized the recommendation I gave.
It's in this budget. That's
Yes, sir.
what-
35.
4 pickleball courts are in this budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, Marty's saying you don't have the plan.
Now, that 35 is the 4 pickleball courts plus the flat. How does that end? What's the total of that? I mean, I go back. Are there 2 platforms?
There's nothing.
There's no platform in the proposed budget.
Because that's an issue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is in this year's budget?
135,000.
135. Now, between those 2 things, Marty is saying $43,000.
We also have a reallocation of light dollars. How much was that?
But before you go there, we have $31,675 for the playground, which is part.
But it's
Right.
under the recreation department. It's not under here.
I got you, but it's part of this Meadows. It's part of this expense.
But the dollars from that come from the recreation budget. They don't come from this budget. The dollars for the movement of the playground, if I'm correct, am I right on that?
You can be correct.
The playground equipment comes off the recreation department, not under racket sports.
I hear you, but it's in the Maitland.
Well, because he did it so that we understood there were dollars involved. We can't do it twice, Marty.
But nobody's talking about doing it twice.
He's adding it, and it should be under the other department.
Well, it's not saying, but here's like 30 when there is. He's just pointing out there is another 30,000
To help.
directly related
For
to-
this
to the
project,
Martin
but not from
project.
this tab.
Not
Not from this tab.
There's
Okay.
also,
I
how
do.
much did we save on the lighting, Jeff? $6,000.
Approximately, yes, sir.
So here's where we are. We have $230,000 in budgets for either a 273.5 expense or a 339.5 expense.
I'm up to 339. I got this.
Okay?
That includes the 43 from you that you said we were short. 26 for the lighting, 135.
Confusing
It's in
it.
this
You're
year's
confusing it. You are doing that what Sharon just said.
I
You're
just-
double counting. You got call it
budget. I
230.
read up to 339.
230 from 339. You are short. Somebody do the math. God almighty.
111,000.
111,000.
And that is
$13
for 2 platforms and 4 courts plus what you have.
No. That's
Eight
not
courts.
2 and 8.
Two
It's
for
done.
eight.
The project
that-
would be done.
For 2 and 8, project will be done.
That campus will be completed.
Okay, now in this, that's not it. In this budget, we have what?
4 pickleball in the
four
proposed budget.
Yeah, and 2 platforms.
No, sir.
Well, that was in last year's.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how much in last year's budget we had?
135,000.
135,000.
Can I,
Okay,
let me
what?
do this
No,
again?
you can't. Let me finish. Can you just answer? Okay, how much? You still need the 43 from Morty. Okay, I'm talking about 2 and 4.
Yes, sir.
And we need, how much more is in this budget to get to 2 and 4?
To get to the 2 and 4.
Well, I mean, does the 135 course cover the 2 and 4? No. Or does it?
No,
It does.
where some of the confusion is we built this prior to finalizing the proposal for the Meadows, which includes everything.
I understand that part. I understand.
Okay.
I got the everything part.
Okay.
The everything part is not in this budget because you built it or you got.
Correct.
Okay, I understand. Well, now I'm trying to just get back to what is exactly in this budget.
35,000 for 4 court.
35, and what was in the prior year's budget?
135.
You got 35, and now what is this 43? free.
And we also had lights.
That's included in the pricing.
No. We didn't spend as much light on the playground.
$26,000.
Lights,
So
26,000
you have to add
lights.
26 to that.
That's
what it was
196.
You have $196,000 in your pocket.
Right.
That's
With this
including
budget.
this budget as it was written, plus last year's dollars, plus the lights.
Right.
Construction of everything but the final 4 pickleball courts is $273,000. Does everybody agree?
Yep.
The price for building all of it, with the actual, the last 4 being built, is what, $339?
$339.
So the delta for building all of it,
May I interrupt a second?
sure.
You left out the money in the budget for the playgrounds.
Correct. It should be a negative minus the 30.
Call it 32,
I thought it was 40. Was it 32? 45?
31.6.
The playground.
That work has to be done anyway because the playground's in bad shape.
Right.
It's a wash. It's 32.
It is, because
Okay,
when-
you want it in? Okay.
You give it to it.
You probably, you didn't put it in there.
It should
It's a
be.
wash.
It'll be on the other side.
It's
too.
included in this.
It'll be on the other
It should
side.
be
Wash.
removed.
That's what I said. It's a wash. So we're going to add 32 in here. So what you're going to pocket now is 228.
Correctamundo.
Okay, so now you got 273, 339. They have 32 to both of those.
How's that? The 32
No.
is in.
It's already in there.
It's in the 229.
Yeah.
Or 273, good God.
In the
It's
273.
in the 273, right, Bob?
Yes, sir.
So now you subtract the 228
Subtract
to
it.
273.
Okay, so it's in there.
That's launching a rocket ship.
So,
That's your 45.
45.
That's your 111.
So the total was 111.
If you do all 8 for it.
That gives the credit. So you
Yes. Credited.
Okay,
everything. Okay.
so it's,
That's right.
this is correct. I'm looking at Art and Bob. These numbers are right.
That's correct.
With this budget, we
Pretty
got-
close.
We have to add 45 one way or another to get the minimum.
That's that one.
And with the, we have to add 111.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's either $5.32 or $13.13 per assessment.
Okay, now,
Those are the numbers.
let me ask you this. Where's that money
Assessments,
comes from reserves?
it really doesn't. You can argue this
Yeah, you-
every way from Sunday, but we're not
It's not
replacing
reserve,
any
it's-
pickleball. These are new capital.
Cap,
How about the 5?
Call it whatever you want. It's
No,
new
but-
capital.
it's not about, damn sure, but it is,
And what difference is it?
it is a,
What
yeah,
category?
okay. Fundamentally, what we would end up doing is agree to transfer the money out of the historic replacement reserve.
No. We're collecting it right here.
Well, we're collecting, yes, we are collecting it, Marty, but we are also collecting money to put into the reserve, including the 5-year plan money, and including, I don't know, tell me 1.6 million to the reserves. It is confusing because, in fact, when trying to separate it out, doesn't necessarily make any sense. We have the reserves. We can pay for it out of reserves. We can make a simple vote to say, am I incorrect?
No, sir. You're correct.
That we can simply make
You
a
need,
vote.
you need a simple majority to do that because you're taking money out of reserves. It's not this.
Well, yeah, you would need a super majority.
If you want to know how to do that, I'd give Pete Gomez.
Although, actually, yeah, that would be a thing to do, but that would be a bad thing. Anyway, the point is, we're going to get the money. Now, if you want to say it's coming out of assessments, that's fine, okay. It's coming out of the assessments that are going someplace, into some form of reserve. Whether we make up a new one or call it future reserves, which is we could do, I mean, there's a lot of ways to make the money go back. I might just tell me I'm being stupid or something like that. Or
No, you're correct in what you're saying, so
so
it's correct.
So basically, we can't be. Now, we're going to have another discussion on reserves that are coming up. You know, I think it's complicated now. Wait till then. But I think this is the time, and this is the budget when we have to take another look at how reserves just tackle and.
Can we stay on tennis for
So
a moment?
on tennis, I think we need an up and down decision. Have sense.
I put forth add 45,000, which is $5.32 impact on this year's assessment to do 2 and 4. If somebody wants to do something else, put it forward.
Glad to do that.
Okay, it's done. Now before we vote on it, can we have a little discussion? We keep hearing about this booming, exploding membership. We have sold 89 memberships. That's $1,100. And we can argue all day about who lives where. 26 of those are associate memberships. They do not live here. They pay none of that money. Now, that leaves us with 63 paid Ocean Pines Association members playing pickleball.
No way.
63 sold memberships. Now, if that membership includes the puppy plays, it doesn't matter. You get 1 vote per house. You've got 1 membership for this. 63 members. Guys, that's less than 1% of Ocean Pines membership. But you guys go ahead and spend it like you got it. It's not yours.
I would like to make my comment, please, if I may. Okay, thank you. I personally would like to see the whole project done at one time, get this campus done. But we've already been dragging it out for 2 years. Let's get the whole thing done. If it's $111,000, I'm fine. It's going to cost us more money to go back and do 4 courts another year from now. Get it all done, get this project off the books. Next year we won't be talking to tennis and pickleball. They're going to be out there playing. So my vote would be put the whole thing on.
So we would get more courses right now.
111 is the number.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
111 for that.
No, we're getting 8.
We're getting 8.
Yeah.
We're getting 4. If we do 4 next year, it'll cost us some amount of money. And I don't know that that's a higher amount of money than. I mean, we just don't know.
We don't
know. So whether or not waiting or not. I think this is one of those projects that's going to. Okay, let me go around before I.
Well, if I could add a comment, there was somebody there on the tennis committee, I think, that mentioned that they would still be able to use some of the tennis, if we didn't build all 8, they could use some of the tennis courts for pickleball until such time as they built the other 4. I agree that the other 4 will cost money later, as everything does. But on the other hand, this way, at least we furnish what is needed now, which is 80 people, 20, whatever it is, and then it comes out $45 an hour. So I would be conservative and say, let's go for that. I understand what you're saying, but I think that's what we have now. Since the other overflow can be taken care of tennis courts at least.
It's not a hyper-urgent thing in my mind. I mean, it's a good thing, and I think that's where we have to get, and we better maybe to have the whole thing. But I'm having a lot of problems, and we're working into the CIP with good things that just pop up, and this is one of them. I mean, so it's only one. There's so much.
Let me respond to that. As Sharon said, this has been a process that was going on for 2.5 years. When you look at the product, and that's what I'm looking at, these guys have gone from 0 membership to 89 membership, borrowing places to play. They don't have courts that are actual. They're borrowing space. When you look at a product and what you're going to provide, yes, Pat, I understand your point that, yeah, you could jury rig something on the tennis courts for them to use. It's not going to have the impact. Problem with that not saying that it isn't workable, because it has been at this point. You are taking away the hard courts that are eventually have to be given back to the tennis players at a certain point. Now, that doesn't mean they don't come in here, but if you have been in that room when the pickleball players are trying to play inside, no one's suggesting we build an indoor pickleball arena for people to use in the wintertime. They're already figuring it out the best they can when it's cold outside. My point in trying to get this done in many ways comes from the product you're putting out there. They've grown from 0 to 89. Marty's point, there's 26 people who don't live here. Well, guess what happens if you build just to what you need? Then you have non-paying members of our organization taking up courts that paying members are now standing there not able to use. So we've already looked at the numbers. Again, the numbers are these are the numbers. They're not to be debated. There they are. Is it worth less than 50 cents a month to have build just what we need today? Or just over $1 a month to build what obviously we're going to need if you look at the 20 per member court? To me, it comes down to, do you finish the project, get it done, take it off the list? That whole campus for quite a while is now going to be off the list of work to be done. Or do you simply say, nope, we're only going to do exactly what was in the budget, which is what was in there. What was in there has been 2 and 4 all this time. To me, you get it done for the impact. And at the end, Dave has raised a very interesting point. For budgetary purposes, when you add new capital, by definition, it goes directly to the next year's dues. It goes in there directly because you're not using replacement dollars per se. Can you do that? Yes, you can do that. So, to the point you raised, and Marty's correct, can we go as a supermajority and say, we're actually going to do this or this out of money we've already got in our pocket, and we're not going to add that to the dues next year, and we're not going to add that to the dues next year because we got the money in the bank to pay. We don't put road depreciation into the dues right now. I'm not suggesting that this is the way to go. I'm simply pointing out that if we do what Dave referred to, that we've got the money, why do we want to add to the assessment if we don't need to? We can not add to the assessment and finish the project.
And I have to say that I've got too much history in my head, and I have the history of the golf greens. Now going back into that, one of the things that happened there, and there was an argument about, which is still an argument about, is that needed a supermajority to move money out the historic reserves. And in fact, or to approve.
We did have a supermajority on that.
And we didn't. We had on the reserve side, the initial agreement, and because it involved moving money out, you need the supermajority. And I've seen that supermajority used on a lot more what I would call, use the word, suspicious.
This isn't suspicious.
And this is a lot less so. It's a very straightforward.
Yeah.
So
Again, I'm just bouncing off what you said.
I don't mind.
It is suspicious to me because these are not replacement reserve. You cannot take me out and show me a pickleball court that should
Okay, that's true. That's
Yeah.
That.
Yes,
Everybody
with a
agrees.
supermajority, we
Agreed.
could go out and buy golf.
Yes.
Yes,
Darn
we
near did.
Darn near
And we
did.
darn near did. You're
Look,
darn
guys.
right. So I have a lot less of a problem doing
Okay.
this.
This number's up here. If you take 45,000, let's just analyze this real quick. That's 20% more than we have in 2 budgets. Right now, we need to go and get 45,000, 20% more than what we got, just to get that. What you're calling for is 50% more than what we got. It's a big difference. Put it on the table. I have a consensus. Here, let's move.
All right, I think we need two things if you're going to go or if you're going to make a change. One is we have to agree where the money's going to come
No, we don't.
No, I think it goes
No,
into the
we
assessment.
don't.
I
But you say we don't, I say we do.
Okay, fine.
I mean, I do.
You don't have a supermajority here to do that.
I don't know that.
I don't know.
It's well, 5 of us will.
Go
We
ahead.
need a supermajority of the entire board. Yeah, I guess we
I'm
need the
sorry, you're
entire
not
board.
going to be able to do it.
Yeah, we can't do it.
So
We can't do it
look,
with a
let's just go
supermajority.
ahead and decide, are we going to build 2 and 4 or 2 and 8? And I understand that with 1% of the membership is in the room applauding, but how many of you were there when the swimming pool people told us that the indoor pool was going to make money?
At any rate,
Again,
we
this
cannot.
is an amenity for
we
our
can-
membership.
We can agree to go to.
Wasn't here when they bought.
We can agree to go. Let's not decide that. Let's stay on this subject. Okay, so the options are that we can agree to include these in the budget.
Which one, Dave?
That is to say, the 2 and 4 are already in the budget.
No, they're
Well,
not.
we need to add
They're
an
not.
additional
We
We
need
do have to
45.
add-
Still have to
Okay,
add at least
we
45.
can agree. Shut up, as a consensus. Yeah, but-
No, I don't agree. I want the project done.
Well,
Let's call it.
we first have to agree to let, we first have to agree to whether or not we want 4 or 2 and 8.
What?
I mean,
We agreed upon that. We did a vote on that last meeting. We agreed upon the concept. What we
Yeah.
need to do is come up with the money for the concept.
we need to agree to put 2 in this budget. We never voted on.
Okay, you're right. Okay,
And that's the subject at hand.
correct.
Okay, the 2 and 8 would come first because I think the board was the fallback position, in which case we would instruct Bob to put the 45. So there's 2 things. Okay, one is, we vote for the 2 and 8? And that's a simple up, down.
That's 111.
That's $111,000.
$13.13 an assessment.
Whatever, that's it. Whatever it is, the 8.
We're going to get this over $1,000 assessment with days over.
The second thing is whether or not we, we go to the fallback position and then we have an automatic, I think, $45 at the end.
Yeah.
Everybody agree that that's the
The two
I
choices
don't
are
understand the
full-
question.
question?
Does everybody want
All
the
right,
first
I'm going to
question?
make a motion
Wait.
that we add to this budget $111,000. Simplify the wording, it is to get the project finished.
I'll
I'm gonna make
second
that
it.
motion.
Okay, I think we've had all the discussion.
I hope so.
That we're going to have.
Call the question. I'm
I'll call
opposed.
the question.
Favor.
I'm
2 in
opposed.
favor, 2 opposed.
Pat hasn't voted. Give him a
No, I
minute.
said no, I'm opposed.
You're opposed to it?
I want the 1.
Okay, the second thing is the $45,000, which
At a minimum, I will make the motion that we add 45 to the budget, so that we can at least build 4 of the pickleball courts that are needed, because there is need for more budget money to finish that part of the project.
you can take that as direction, Bob,
Oh,
and
yeah.
without objection.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
All right.
Marina.
We're up to
Marina.
Rita total salaries. For,
Yeah, we're back.
You've never done this before.
yeah, I don't know.
We jumped off the payroll because Sharon had the appointment.
A lot of people there waiting for that.
Good
Yeah.
point.
Do you have to bring lunch into it?
Marina, right?
I ran.
My Bypass that.
We bypass them.
We'll come back there because that's not.
No, I'd like,
salary.
let's finish off on the payroll.
Yeah, that's why you're new to Marina, right?
And then, right.
Marina's the next payroll issue.
Yeah, maybe the only.
Oh, payroll. Okay, you're right. You're right. It's payroll. You're right. You're right. Thank you. Keep me straight.
But I'll just spit it out. I mean, average payroll over the last 5 years is $69,000. Payroll forecast last year, $69,000. Proposed, $81,500. Yeah, the marina operates very efficiently.
Part of the reason for the increase, okay, is we were closed for almost a month. We're under repair. So having it open, I'm going to have those costs associated with it for the employee costs, obviously. The staff,
We'll be on what, April 1st open, approximately?
approximately.
Assumption that sales would go up, and that's just not happening. Bottom line is actually down.
Well, cost of fuel is down.
Our fuel stays, whatever it is, it has a set figure that we add to it.
Well, the 10,000 you're comparing, just to make sure I know what we're doing. The 10,000 is comparing budget of 2015 to
No.
budget, or
No, forecast.
Forecast, you spent 69,676, which is right in line with the 5-year average.
Just for clarity, we know where the forecast, approximately where the forecast is going to land. Please understand, there's at least a month when we were closed last year because we weren't open yet. So assuming the 69,676 is an accurate number, and then we're open for another month.
So that's an anomaly, actually, because you're looking at 80, 86, and it drops down to 60.
That's a budget.
86 was the budget number.
That's forecast now, 60.
Correct. But and you see, we're in between. Yes, sir. Closed for a month, so we didn't have the payroll costs associated for that month. And we didn't go as high as the budgeted because we realized we're more efficient with the operation down there. So instead of last year's budget had 86,670, we realized we can be, Ron's doing a good job down there managing the team, and we believe we can do it at 81,515. So it's lower than last year's budget, but slightly over the forecast. But it's slightly over the forecast because we actually were closed for a month. God bless you. Beat you to it.
And again, if you look at the net operating, they're up almost 17,000, 16,000. Net
to
operating,
budget.
they're up to
That's
budget.
budget, not forecast.
I got you.
So the only
Forecast
difference,
is
the only
17%.
difference there is just the extra month being open. And remember, when you first open, there's cleanup. I mean, there's a lot that happens. We have more staff, and then we're getting everything set up to start for the season.
I don't have any problem. Dave.
Anybody else? I don't have any problem.
With what, cutting it?
No, we'll leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
We're going to be open another month, Marty. They weren't open last year.
I have a question.
These people aren't working for free.
Why are we 17,000 less than forecast? We got 133,863 is what you're forecasting for sales of net bottom up, and you're projecting 117,019. That's
Yeah, without knowing the fuel costs, without knowing anything, that was where we felt based on the sales, based on reduced spread, whatever.
Up.
It'll be based on
Well,
gallons.
Yeah, you had a big year selling fuel.
I think they broke all their records. They for sale.
702.
Fuel. Yeah.
Well, you are fuel sales, that's cost of fuel sales. You're up $21,000 over forecast and $14,000, excuse me, $11,000 over forecast, $14,000 over budget. So your anticipating selling more gas?
Selling at the same,
Same
if you
level.
look, same level. Forecast 702, recommendation 702 for the fuel sale.
We are selling more gas because the cost.
Right, that's what I'm
It's
getting
flat.
at, is the revenues are, budget to budget, the revenues are up $22,000. Total revenue, I'm talking total revenue line below 398, where total revenue line is 848 versus 870.
Yeah, 22.
But your net bottom line decreases by 17,000. That's my question. Why? And I'm looking at it, I guess it's the cost of fuel, but I thought we
That's
sold
what-
our fuel exact percentage. We bought it for $1, we sold it for $1.10. If we bought it for $50, we sold it for $50.
But we also, that's correct. One of our pricing objectives, though, and something that happens every week, is we're calling the other marinas, find out what they're selling them at. And sometimes that spread may lessen based on the fact we're staying priced competitively below folks around us. But that's why we've been successful in this
We're
particular
always lower than everybody.
And that's why, because we're measuring all the time. And again, based on how much fuel's in the tank at the end of the season versus when we start selling again, what we bought for then versus what you buy it for now. I mean, the spreads do tend to change a little bit, which could have an impact when you're talking about that much in fuel sales.
Well, you're projecting net operations that are lower in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and your forecast for 15. I mean, I don't see what's beating us up.
You were just wondering why it's at 117 and not 133 for the forecast.
Yeah.
So you're just wanting to know why don't the numbers match for what we actually did this past year? Is that, I'm trying to understand, is that your question, Marty?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't. My question is, why, if sales are the same, actually they're improved, why is our bottom line 17,000 worse than the year before? And I guess it's mostly the whacking payroll.
Because we weren't open that one month. Because the
I'm sorry.
payroll came down 12,000, 11,000.
Yeah.
Because we weren't open.
What you're saying, yeah.
So then the bottom line should have come down. If we weren't open, we weren't selling
We
anything.
made more money.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Why this year, we're going to be open in April, are we projecting a much lower bottom line than the year
So
before?
what number should that be at? I think?
It's not that. I mean, it's the revenue is forecast to stay at projection for the budget or flat. I mean, you're saying you're going to make the same amount of money.
Not budget to budget.
Within six, forecast to stay at
6,000.
6,000 bucks more. Okay, so you do better. But then on the other hand, when you come down to payroll, you're looking at what 70,000 to
81.
so you've got 9,000.
And that works out to be about 7 months of being open. I just divided 7 into 666,196 payroll per budget. It works out to be about $9,500. So the delta is they're open for another month for the cost, but the bottom line is still 17,000
Less.
less.
How about I change my suggestion, which was cut payroll by 10,000, because that's easy, and just say improve sales by 10.
Do that.
What's it do? It improves our assessment by $1.83.
That's a plus.
No, it's a reduction.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well,
consensus? Is that agreeable?
So you're saying the forecast for fuel sales should be 7?
No, I'm saying to Bob, our general manager, find another 10.
Oh, I thought you just said you were going to increase revenue.
You got to increase revenue or cut costs. Nobody likes cutting costs.
Increase the bottom line to
127.
127. Anybody disagree with that? Is that achievable?
Still, yeah, it's lower than the last 5
I
years.
think with all the numbers you got to play with.
Okay. You feel good? Okay.
Okay.
Done.
Done. Done and done.
That's 2 things we've agreed on.
Yeah. Two. That's not too bad. Okay,
Well,
let's move on.
Townsend,
Now we're not talking about, we're sort of out of the, going to go in, I think, other additions to operational costs. And reserve studies. Basically, we're talking about a $50,000 addition. And Tom's for it, I'm for it.
How do we come up with that number, Dave? I'm just curious.
Over that.
swag. Same way every budget number comes.
That's a fair
And
number.
who? So this is a reserve study. You're coming up with 50,000.
Yeah.
And who would do this?
We would hire a company.
RFP.
This is an outside source. And that's what you want, somebody, to come in and take it.
And when was the last time we had one done? Do you
Oh,
know?
wait.
I'm asking Dave.
I'm sorry, I know the answer. I'm just answering the question.
Yeah, it was back.
And was that cost about similar to that? Was it 50,000?
Yeah. It's about 12.
Paid a lot.
It's 12,000. But it didn't include roads. It didn't include a lot of stuff.
This may be,
So you need to
this
tell
may
us
be, yeah, this,
It sounds like a high number to be 50,000. I'm just asking,
It's
how do
gonna
we
be-
determine this?
it's a high number compared to, say, the park or anything like that. We do have a much more complicated, when you take all of the infrastructure and everything like
You
that.
got $20 million.
Sure, I put
worth
the
of
number in
assets,
there.
Yeah.
Plus roads, which is $26 million. worth of
I'm
assets.
just trying to say, what do we
I talked
have?
with the guys who did it the last time, 08 and 05, or 08 and 03. I called the company and I asked them. And they said, well, I'm just pulling the number out of the air.
Where is it on your sheet here somewhere, the reserve
No.
study?
Second thing on the list.
Second line, okay. You got the 50, all right.
So it's a guess. Nobody said 50. Bob and I talked about it briefly, and he's been to a seminar or something. And he thought, when I said 17 to 20, he said 35 minimum. So I said
I think
50.
50 is the right number, but
It's just for a budgetary purpose. Now go down the paper that I handed out now, for additions. The one thing I want to say about this reserve study, Ted and I, and Jerry, were talking about exactly how that fit into the CIP that's going, and they are closely related. Matter of fact, they're already with the CIP itself. Reserve study. But at any rate, we believe that it would be beneficial, very close to our present for Jerry.
We can have this discussion later, but
Okay.
I can tell you that I totally disagree with that, as does AIA. What is it? CAI. They say the minute you influence it, it's worthless.
Yeah, well, I don't agree with that. But on the other hand, the operative word there is the point that we're going to do in the CIP, and what we're going to do is the starting point is to gather together all of the information we have, past study information, and so forth. Now, they don't have to use it, and we're not going to tell them. But on the other hand, we certainly can answer the question they have. One,
what's the amount? I don't disagree that there may be
50,000.
some. Well, I'm talking
for
about
the engineering studies.
Yeah. what
No,
about-
the engineering
That's what-
studies.
that's what-
Engineering studies are different.
Oh, I thought we were still in reserves. I
No,
thought-
I'm just pointing out
Still in reserves.
that we will. I mean, there will be a correlation. Reserve study. We all three strongly agree that we can make the reserve study better by being able to provide them.
They'll ask for what they want. They're an engineering firm, an architectural firm. Every one of them payroll that do this all the time.
I'm still on reserve. I'm not engineering.
No, okay.
Okay. My question is, what is the time frame for some?
I think it's not an issue with budget. But,
Do we have anything in this year's budget for it?
No.
We do not.
That's
So
how you
this is.
stopped it when I got a budget.
Marty, I'm just asking clarification.
We
I
have,
was trying to remind you.
so we have,
That is
so
discussion.
we will,
over.
come on, Marty.
Marty,
So
be
we will-
respectful, please. I'm just asking for
Sometimes
clarification.
hard. Go ahead.
Yes, it is.
Um,
So we don't have anything in this year. So if we're going to put 15
we're
next
gonna
year, it
put
wouldn't start
$50,000
until
in
next
the-
May 1st or later.
Yeah, I would like to see it start. But probably, yeah.
So we get an
May-
RFP out,
May is good. We should get start getting, yeah.
and then does it take 2 months, 3 months to get a report like this? What is the time frame?
I don't remember back that.
Okay.
To tell you the truth, but I think it.
Wouldn't this be something later?
Yeah, I would think this has nothing to do with budget. We approved money. Get details later. I would
Yeah.
think months.
That's true. Well, I mean, basically, the quick answer to the question is as soon as we can. Okay, the engineering studies, the amount that's needed, I don't know. But, I mean,
My
What-
assumption
what-
is there's nothing in this budget for CIP engineering studies, right?
no, there is not.
Just to
There is
clarify.
not. So
Oh, we
that's
did
why-
approve the reserve, is that correct?
That's why I'm talking
Yeah.
about other additions to operation.
That's fine.
We approved it. So engineering studies. Okay, the initial thing, which is being worked on by Ted, Jerry right now, is to go through all of the information, the engineering studies, whatever. We said we're not starting from scratch. And now, as you go through those, you will draw quick summaries of what they say. So, yeah, 4 years, say, do this. And again, try and extract that information out and summarize it. But of course, the thing that we're anticipating is that we're going to find that those studies may not really be valid, or at least at a minimum, they need to be updated.
And so what you're saying, for my clarification, you and Ted and Jerry
And
are doing this engineering review of all the engineering studies we've had and see what needs to be updated. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Does that make it
and
too
that
simple?
will be one output. I mean, some of them will be conclusions that are still valid using the CIP, but other times you're going to run into something and say, well, wait a minute, that was 4 years ago. The situation now is, and we may not be smart enough to know what the situation is. That's where,
Well, you're
in some
looking for a
cases-
placekeeper, so how much money we talk? I mean, 20 grand, 15, 30,
You know, I originally thought 50, but I think that's too much. I think for this purposes of this budget, I would say 25. I'm just pulling that out of the air if you hadn't noticed. But I think, and Bob,
For an engineering study?
yeah, and it might be more than one. Typically, our engineering studies have run around 10,000.
I'm trying to catch up a little and understand what, and I'm sorry, I've been listening, I just not catching what they're for. Like, we had engineer studies or engineer work for Mancla Meadows. It's part of the project we just approved. So each project, we do those. This is separate, but I still didn't understand exactly what that separation was.
Okay, we're looking at, well, first of all, we're looking at all, not just one project at a time. Secondly, the studies that we're talking about have been performed. I mean, I can take the Country Club study, which was like 3 years ago, and it may be fine. They may say everything that they said in here is correct, it's good. On the other hand, we may say, well, wait a minute, this has happened, so much has happened since that we need another study. So we typically, so Michael Meadows is it's a pretty good example. It's mid-sized in terms of cost. What was like the minutes.
I have got that.
While you're looking that up, you know, we just approved a reserve study, which is a study done by a qualified engineer and architect that's going to update all our facilities with a, here's where you are, here's what you got to do, here's how you have to fund for it. I mean, wouldn't we want to look at that before we started looking at additional engineering studies?
We're not looking for additional.
Then let's not fund for it.
What we're doing is anticipating that as we go through the reports in the past, that we're going to find some that are dated, some that could obviously be updated. We may not need the information right then at that point in time if we're looking at something that's, you know, a capital improvement. It's not going to happen for, this is a long term, not the short term that Bob's involved in. So if we don't, we see something that's probably downstream, but we do need to know, you know, that engineering study wouldn't have to be immediate. I mean, I don't know the answer until you go through the and do the work.
Don't we need to have a CIP before we do an engineering study? So if we say our number one priority is the country club, the beach club, or the bridge, or whatever it is, then we would need an engineering study on that specific thing.
The answer is maybe sometimes, but not generally. Generally speaking, before you set a priority, you need to know what the snapshot is right now of the facility or asset that you're talking about. And to get that snapshot, you may or may not need technical support to do it.
But don't we have engineering studies in all of our facilities that are rather recent?
Well, they're not really rather recent. I mean, at least 3 years old for the last update to the country. And some of them will go back further than that. I mean, what's the Court Barn engineering study? When's the last one that was? You know, Sharon, you're asking something that I don't know the answer to until the work is
I have
done.
a problem with another 25,000 engineering studies until we really know what order or what our priorities are with the CIP. And I don't know if we know that.
Well, I'm only anticipating what a likely cost is going to be. I mean, it's not, I could be wrong, and it may not need updates, but I can't believe that we're taking studies that are 3 or 4 years old and that we're not going to have to look back into them, and at least to some extent. What the cost of that will be, probably, if you're just updating, that great. Maybe it will take going into the facility and doing measurements and finding out, for example, if the mold that they talked about 3 years ago is the same or it's any worse in the country. I don't know, but getting the information is going to be, I'm just telling you that there's going to be a cost associated, and I don't know what the cost is yet.
Okay, we just added $6 for a reserve study, which includes engineering. So far, we've been here, oh my God, how long have we been here? 3 hours, and we've added $9.41 to the assessment.
And I haven't gotten the ones.
I'm sure of that, but the point I'm making is, why would we budget for an engineering study when you A, don't know how much it is, or B, even what we're going to study?
I'm with you on that, Mark.
Well, now let me give you a response to that. The reason you would put some dollars in the budget is so that if in fact you do have to spend $20,000 for engineering studies, you don't end up with an end of year, oh my God, we lost $25,000, when in fact we're sitting here knowing that for all intents and purposes, for planning purposes, if we're going to, and we are, refurbishing the CIP and making it more current, using all the resources and works that's gone on before, if we're doing that, it's likely we're going to end up having to do an engineering study unless within the next fiscal budget, which is, May through next April, we don't anticipate doing anything, actually spending any money to determine what the plan is. All I think Dave is putting on the table is there's a likelihood there may be some research that needs to be done. And if you don't put it in the budget, you're going to be spending non-budgeted dollars, which as you know, people get upset about. This is simply putting it in the budget. If you don't spend it, you don't spend it. If you don't put it in, you're going to have to come back and vote to spend non-budgeted dollars to do research. If that helps at all explain why this column is here.
Tom, and there's some logic there, but here's my problem.
Okay?
We had, how much was the engineering study we did on the country club 4 years ago?
I don't know.
It was a lot.
I don't know that one, but I know the cost Mr. Stevens asked, and just had the opportunity to answer. We have 11,300 for Manco Meadows project.
Yeah.
You would ask that question.
Mr. Moderate, yeah, and that's what I would expect.
Back to what I'm saying. We have that report. What have we done with it? Nothing.
We go to yacht club.
We need to know what we're going to do
One of
before
the,
we start spending money on engineering.
yeah,
And that ain't going to happen in the next fiscal year.
Could it possibly be a compromise that we put engineering and reserve studies together for $50,000? And however it divvies up, it divvies up. Because it may only be $35,000 for the reserve funds, and maybe we have 15 in there for engineering for things we need. Because I think Marty has a point. If we're not budgeted to put money toward the new country club or a bridge or whatever it is, then why would we do an engineering study that may be outdated?
yeah, because yeah, maybe I can do both. But let me answer the question. The point is, we have to know, okay, I mean, one of the things that need the information is to know where in the budget stream these facilities are going to fit. Are they going to fit 5 years out, 3 years out, or, God,
Small
you better
down.
do it. You better
Okay.
do it next year.
And it's got one. And Dave, we have buildings that are 50 years old. But I'm going to make a motion that we put both of those in the 50,000. And I think we've got a place setter, we got a placeholder there for 50,000 for these
I'll
reserve
support
studies.
just the move. That's it. Next thing.
Are you okay with that, Pat?
We'll go with that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, what I was going to say was Dave already said it. Dave said these are incremental costs. You don't need the whole engineering budget may not be used. You may use 10,000, 5,000, whatever. But if you don't have it, you can't use it. So I think
We also have the GM's discretionary, what do you go, 15,000.
So it makes it 65 or
It's still, yeah.
And we also have,
No, he can only spend budget. He can't spend,
you're right.
he can't spend unbudgeted dollars without coming down.
That's why he needed to vote on the 13.
That's correct.
It's under the 15 spending authority, but it wasn't budgeted.
Still has to be budgeted for him.
Okay, let's go to I'll call it golf balls. Okay, and this is pretty simple. Marty recommended that, I wasn't quite sure, that we add $100 to the loss, 100,000, or that we raise it up. I don't care, just guessing, that's fine. But point is, we have right now, what, $9,000 is it? 14,000. That comes to Jesper. And I'll just ask the question. Does anybody have any confidence in that number?
For any number, if Jasper's ever given us.
Yeah, well, we have to have confidence in our own number if we make one up. So.
If you're going to raise this dollar amount, I'm not saying I'm against it. You're going to raise it. There's already contractual dollar amount budget. Excuse me, not budget. In the contract, it says that minus $97,000 objective is already in the contract. Want to use that?
Is it? I don't remember. That's for this year.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's a number in there that says minus 97.
Okay, so we could use it for next year.
We could use it for next year.
Seems to
I'm
me,
good by
If you
that.
want to raise it, just put it what's in the contract.
Gotcha.
Dave, when I asked you the specific question, not knowing who will be managing the golf, I think your comment was they will have to work with our budget.
Yes.
So I would be inclined to raise it from the 14. I think you're right. I'm not sure 100,000 is what everyone would do, but I want to give whoever's there an opportunity to be successful, but to keep the challenge too. I would tend to say half of that. I'd say 50,000.
Okay, now we're.
Yeah.
I've got 50. I've got 50.
Well, I'm just being.
Can I
It's
clarify?
a budget. I'll accept 50.
Are you suggesting 60, that raising the minus 14, minus 64? Or are
No,
we
total,
saying
minus 50.
Minus 50.
Minus 50 total.
So you're raising it 36.
I'll accept it. for moving along, but because everything's a guess. But
Pat, are you all right with that? Are you okay?
Yes, I am.
okay, you okay with that, Marty? 50.
Yeah, it's 36.
It's actually a 36.
Oh, two. Okay.
It's actually, that's why I was clarifying.
That's a good point. Okay.
So basically, the bottom line loss is 50, which
I won't
is
make any bets.
36.
No.
No,
Well, we don't know.
we're not having any.
None of us have that crystal ball. Wish we did.
Offered them
$4.26.
$4.26.
Okay.
Bingo! Your calculator works like mine.
All right. Going
Don't
on to
insult my
the.
cap.
Forget tennis shortfall. We already got that. Yeah. Swimming pool covers. This is Morty's suggestion.
Actually, it says Sharon.
It's Sharon's actually do it.
So
Well-
one of our practices, I'm sorry to cut you off, sure. One of our anytime we renovate, remodel, redo, so at least how it's been with our pools, we've said we're going to buy a new cover. We have 2 that are currently under construction or renovation, and we want to cover those pools sooner.
And that was not it.
It was not.
Okay. I would say that we go ahead and support that.
Okay. Electronic signage. I added the words with county approval, by the way. This was Marty's, and that's Marty's figure. Yes. So we put in. But the status, as I understand it right now, is the communications committee is exploring, I guess is the right word, to feasibility of getting county for what we want to do.
I don't think they've gone any further. Have
No,
they,
you
Marty?
can't do anything. You apply.
Well,
They wanted the board approval to go ahead and go further, but I think that has to come from our general manager. That doesn't come
We have
from
to
a
approve the
committee.
budget. They have. Bob, ask that, make an application.
If I remember what I read from their document, they basically said they didn't want to go to the county unless board of directors / or Bob put it in the budget so that when they went, they'd be applying. The question then became, the old regulation as they interpreted it was that each community is allowed to have 1 entrance sign, 2 that's electrified. Is it 2? Okay,
It doesn't say, it says 2 entrance signs.
2 entrance signs.
The question, all right,
Help out.
regardless of what the committee said or didn't say or has done or hasn't done, if it's in the budget, it becomes a staff issue to handle it. So
Right.
we'll take care of it. The only question I have for you all is 80,000 is 2 signs.
Correct.
So you're going to have to give me some coaching on which of we have technically 4 entrances, but 3 main entrances. North Gate, South Gate, Capitol Road, and then obviously one St. Martin's. So
Again.
that one we wouldn't put one. So what's the matter?
And I that's something, again, it's much like, that's something we have to decide later. I'd rather, what we need to do is, if we're going to make application, but everybody says, you can't do those signs. When did we ever apply and get turned down? Never. We need to apply.
Agreed. And the only reason I bring it up, I agree that's a later discussion, but if you budget for 2, understand my question to you is going to be, which entrance doesn't get the sign? Because, again, if we're putting them at entrances as informational signs, emergency signs, those, then every
I can only tell you how I remember, and this was committee, over many years. Southgate is out because there's so much clutter in. There is 100 signs. Northgate, yes, and Capitol Road, yes.
Well, as someone that leaves from the South Gate, I would never see the fact I'd see the North one because I live, I come into work. But there's a large number of people who live on the South
I
Gate.
hear you.
So,
I hear
Well,
you.
at the bottom, couldn't we just do this? If we make application, we could make application for 3, fund 2, not 1 next year.
Sure.
So keep the 80,000 in there.
Actually,
well, we were going to say, Bob, can you
Get one.
Southgate's a good idea or bad?
no, I'm just saying we need to make
I
a
just don't know where you
decision
would put it.
collectively where we would, if we would put one there.
Yeah, but you were saying you leave the Southgate. I know you-
If anyone leaving the South End would not see the other two signs, Capitol Road or Northgate, for any information, emergency. One of the big highlights was emergency.
There are 3 entrances.
You would
and
not
we
see
probably
it.
need
So
3.
we,
I like Sharon's idea. Go ahead and try to get 3.
Build 2 now, build 1 next for the next
because
year's budget.
usually, and I don't know what the sign permit is, but usually when you get a permit from the county, you have more than 12 months to do it. So we could certainly go back next year's budget and add a third if we decided.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Do you, does anyone know whether or not this 8,000 is a good number?
Well, we had looked at it 2 years ago and the year before that, and we were around 35,000 per sign for a nice size electronic sign wrap. And then the committee came up with 40,000 per sign wrap, with some, not just the electronic sign, but the whatever wraps around it, finished up,
Base.
framed up, electric run to it.
I would think the biggest problem we have is the Campbell Road sign. Yeah. I mean, how far away and where is it going to go? At Ocean Parkway?
Right where we have a banner flying this very morning.
At the entrance of what you're saying on 589
Right,
in Capitol
yeah,
Road,
right
the
on the
entrance.
corner.
Don't let anybody shot, because I'm actually against spending. So, here.
Oh, come on. Is there enough room on the floor?
Is
We
there
promised to
enough
keep
room
it up in 24 hours.
Look, the realities are, if these signs are going to be informational for people to actually get information, like when classes are, what's going on, besides an emergency notice, you have to put the signs where people can actually slow down and look at them. There has to be a pull-off spot. There has to be, again, I'm not against having electric signs, but I need to understand how physically and functionally they're going to help our people get information.
Oh, there's stoplights.
Because if you're just driving by, it's, you're going to leave information up for 5 seconds, 7 seconds for somebody to read. The reality is we have stagnant signs right now that are not updatable enough. I agree with that. They're not. It just takes too much manpower to update them all the time. So I'm not against informational signs that can be updated from a central spot. Matter of fact, that was one of the first things I tried to go after a few years ago. John McLaughlin and I were on the other side on that. The net for me is, if you want to put money in a budget, that's fine, but understand that the actual implementation of doing this, as we do with anything else, is going to have to come back for a vote to. Because I'm very concerned over where you're going to put these things and functionally how they're going to work to add any value. Okay?
That's the way our policy works.
Yeah. I understand that. So if you want to put money
People
in,
get bids.
if you want to go to, all I'm saying is, if you want to put some money in here, fine.
Bids,
But
location.
there's a
You're
lot
gonna get a
more
little
here
bit.
to learn
You're
than.
going to get a
All
little.
right,
And
so,
the count.
Tom,
And the count.
to your, would you say we put only half that money in to get approval for 3, but build 1?
Well, I think that's what you just suggested was
No,
40
she
million.
said
No, I suggested,
But we
Well,
will
80
120.
80 is over, to your point of the budget, that's $9 more.
you know,
a year.
I maybe,
947.
maybe just go for 1 sign and do that. And put it as a
it in for
placeholder, so
3.
we've got 1. And then if it doesn't, if you don't
Sure.
get approval, we're done. But we haven't raised everyone's,
Change it to
I
40.
don't like the
Yeah, all right. Go for it.
you like the 40?
That makes 970.
470 is very solid.
Something like that.
Okay.
You can't stand that way.
The fire pit, I put that in, Sharon.
Thank you, 10. It's 10.
4735.
You know I like that fire pit.
4735.
The fire pit. Just what Art and I wrote down at the bottom. They mentioned the fire pit. We had 10 for the pit. We're going to have piping and some other things associated with that. We went back and looked at what this pit cost when we looked at when this pit was installed during construction. That's where we're getting that number. We're going to have some additional costs. So 15 probably too high, but it's probably a more reasonable number to make sure that we have enough in there, because we're going to have to move some pavers, do some additional piping.
All right, can I bring, our discussion with the yacht club last time was to add the fans for $2,500, big screen TV approximately $1,200, and the fire pit at that point 10. So it's probably closer to 15. Why don't we put a number of 20,000 in there for yacht club improvements, including fans, big screen TV, and the fire pit, and that should cover.
We're trying to get that.
I don't have a
Okay.
problem with that.
And then if it doesn't cost us 20, it costs us 18, then he can get more tables for the tiki tables outside. I don't care, because we do need more things out there. And
No, it's for all.
it's for the fire pit, the fans,
to
the
help
big screen TV.
supplies and
The slide fans.
and a big screen TV. Last time we had fans at 2,500, pit at 10, and Bob and Art are telling us it's probably going to be closer. The big screen was $1,200, which was 13,700. Add 5 to that, round it off. You had 18 or 20,000 budget
Yeah.
covered.
So I'm saying 20.
What item are we on? Sharon? Sorry.
Fire
That's
pit,
new.
the
Fire pit.
bottom
Brand new.
of Dave's
Oh,
stuff.
fire pit's new. Oh, I see.
So add 20K to that. Dave, is that all right with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
$2
And you can do those 3 things. Okay.
Okay. Now,
You gotta slow down. I'm writing as fast as I can write and do math.
But we have another decision. Plow on, the active function.
I can tell you this, you might be skipping dinner at this.
I have my wife's dinner, not going to.
Can I,
Joe with
we suggest this, Dave? What do we have left on Marty's list? $500,000 increase in grants from the county. Not sure how we.
No. We're asking a $500,000 grant. That's about a. We're currently at 449, or
450.
40
so
grand.
it's a 40 grand increase or $4.85.
Well, we'll go ask.
We asked for more than that.
I understand that,
Put it in
but
the
for the
budget.
police grant, I think you can make a reasonable and hard argument. I mean, if you
That
track,
comes back to, do you want to put it in the budget, assuming you make the sale? Or
if you don't put it in the budget, I say don't ask. Come on, it's,
Why?
we know what we're getting, okay? Bob's document.
You don't think they're going to really read our budget, find out whether or not, really, I mean, we're going to make the case as best as we can.
Obviously, I think we need to strive to get 500,000.
Yeah, well, I think we should try.
Good. Is that everybody?
But I wouldn't put it in the budget.
But that's not an increase in the grant, that's growing it to,
To 500.
41,000.
Yeah.
$41,000 increase.
I
I don't care. I just,
If you say no, say no, so we can strike it and move on.
as a part of, budgeting. Unless,
No, it's
well, no, I take it
if
back.
you don't budget, it's a wish.
We could budget. I mean, see, we're budgeting $1 million or $500,000 worth of golf
Yeah.
losses, right? If we can do that, then we can budget 50K more. Yeah. So you can. I don't know.
What is in the book? Say we turn the page.
459.5.
So you're saying 500, budget 5.
So it's 40,500.
I'm going to disagree with that, but that's just, there's no numbers close to that.
470.
I would love to see him give us 500,000, don't get me wrong.
Oh, we've never done it before.
But we've never been close to it.
Actually, that's not good.
We're gonna,
Well, going back to 2010, we weren't.
Going back to 09, we did.
Well, I don't know about 09. I can go back to 2010. We've been 400,000, 400, 400, 400, 459, 459.
and every
And they're
one of those
forecasting
years,
459.
we ask for at least 5.
I don't mind us asking. We can ask for 700.
Most guys
But in our
ask for
budget,
900.
I don't see how to do it.
Just have to work a little harder.
Well, I will be,
I
I'm disagreeing with that
I'm
number.
kind of with you, Sharon, but I also don't. Yeah. Okay, what else is next on
So the decision is you're going to do the 500. Is that the decision?
Yeah.
Okay.
Roads.
The only problem with eliminating the trolley, as I see it, is that Bob won't be able to take us around and do it. Chance show
You can still rent
us
it.
every place.
You can still rent it. Still rent it.
Still rent.
Well, let me ask a question. This is an operational marketing expense, right?
Right?
This is down in the depths of the budget of the marketing clerk. $5,000.
Right.
I think we can leave it up to our management group to make decisions on where they spend $5,000 worth of advertising. I don't think the board of directors, quite frankly, as a policy, ought to be drilling down to that level to say we do or don't buy a space on a trolley to advertise Ocean Pond. Okay, I just, as just a principle, I think we're getting into dollars that we just shouldn't plan.
I've got it on the table.
We've
What's the
got-
I
consensus?
agree that Tom's decision is right. Let the department head make the decision where it goes.
Why are we
Leave it
looking
in-
at the budget? Could have just said,
Well,
let them go. Why are we even looking at it if we're just going to go with that? I'm sorry, I disagree. But that's two against, one for. What's your call? Do you think the trolley's a good deal at $5,000?
That's not what we said. We said
What
let
we said?
the
I'm
department
saying
head.
take it out of the budget, and then it's not a department head decision.
well,
But you lower his budget by $5,000.
Yeah.
He can't use it for something else.
no, that's right. They can't.
It's not supposed to anyway.
I think take that specifically out of the get out of the rest of his market, but keep find $5,000 for a trial.
So what are we saying? Were we lowering the budget for marketing $5,000, or are we simply saying you can't spend $5,000 for trolley? Which is
Good point.
Say it any way you want. Minus 59 cents. I think
No, I'm just,
allowed.
you know, are you saying to the head of the department, to Bob, that your PR budget tab is not lowered $5,000, but you're not allowed to advertise on? Or are you saying that budget's going down
You
$5,000?
want to know exactly what I'm saying? I'm saying I think it's a horrible investment of money. I've never seen more than 3 people
we-
on it, and they were going to Burley.
Can we answer my question? What are we saying?
I just did answer your question.
No, you didn't.
Because it's a bad investment.
Well,
to put
okay, that's fine. That's your
$5,000
choice.
in a
I'm
trial.
asking you, are you suggesting lower the tab
Yeah, lower the
for
Yes.
PR $5,000?
and
Okay, I'm against that.
So
I'm for it.
yeah, and if Bob wants to go get a trial, then he can. But if that $5,000,
That's under, where is that?
market,
Marketing.
So wait a minute. So he can do the trolley if he wants to do it.
That's not what this says. It
That's
says
not what this
eliminate the trolley. I don't understand what part of English is that fine.
well, just
Well, I agree with
Listening
him.
to our
That's
president.
because his president said something different.
you're right. Did say.
So that's the
And it
question.
is.
Okay.
Marty does not.
Marty's suggestion is, and I'm going to read it real simple, eliminate trolley, say $5,000, 59 cents of assessment. I agree, you agreed, you agreed.
Well,
Are you withdrawing it now?
I'm going to withdraw it.
Okay, beautiful. Now let's put it back in.
It's not putting it. We're going to reduce the amount on. And I agree with Tom that now spend this or that. I think it's a bad investment. Too. I don't see there's any benefit to these funds by having Harley run.
What line is it?
Oh yeah, for $5,000.
I don't want to spend more hours. I agree, eliminate 5,000 of marketing.
Budget details.
Well,
I'm still
I'm trying to
talking.
get 3 votes so we can move it along. I know, and that's been about.
I'm sorry. I don't agree with lowering their budget $5,000. If they want to choose to,
Just not do it on a trolley.
it doesn't have to be the trolley. Let them keep that money and market it. We're marketing Ocean Pines. However they do it, we can tell them we don't think there's a value, or the board doesn't feel there's a value with the trolley, but it's their decision. It's their
All right,
marketing.
I'm going to change my mind again. I'm going back to Marty's suggestion. Do not put a trolley in the budget, or get a trolley, or any kind. I'll vote for that.
I'll vote for that.
But reducing the budget 5,000,
Reduce the budget $5,000 because you had a trolley, now you don't have a trolley. $5,000 less in the total market budget. That's just pointless.
I'm definitely voting to not lower the budget market rate.
Of course you're not.
We lost it.
That's your favorite thing. Oh, well, if there wasn't a trolley in there, nobody even be talking about this.
Which is exactly my point.
that's right.
That's exactly
Let-
my point.
let
I know
them
it's your point,
do.
but
That's
there,
my point.
but there is a trolley. And we can't make it
Can't we
not.
just suggest to them that they don't put the money there, they put it somewhere else?
We have to take, I mean, then we have to take money out, because that's the point of taking. And say, come up with a better idea.
Well,
All right,
you
where
don't
are
give them
we
an
now?
opportunity to come up with a better idea. Why, we just took it out.
Well,
What do we got? We got some big items left, right?
that's a very big idea.
You want to go to the next one?
Yeah, Marty, if I have great paper, then I don't.
Adding road depreciation.
Yeah, the depreciation. Yeah, okay, this is great. Every road depreciation of 340,000. Add 350. Now we already did golf. Oh no.
No.
Add 350 in golf drainage. Eliminate the 5-year collection. And one. This is what basically broke the ticket. This is hard. I agree with what Marty's saying conceptually. And however, I'm not necessarily in favor of this. Sure that that's the whole thing. We're on the executive Marty's conditions and short paper that I wrote on the reserve. I mean, I think we need to address the whole pictures rather than put this here, put this money. That's what we collect money for, and what we have yet to do with it.
You just said two different things.
What we have yet to do with it. What our
Money
obligations are.
That's the definition of reserves. We need X for X.
Right.
Not,
Okay.
let's collect X and decide where we're going to spend it.
All right.
That's not what reserves are.
Well, I guess, let me see if I can do this. My first suggestion,
Good luck.
my first suggestion in this paper is that I'm going to use phase out, but basically, that can start with the budget this year. Eliminate the term 5-year plan period, and eliminate the collection of money for 5-year plan. Now, when I say eliminate it, that does not mean that you do not collect an equivalent amount and use it for specific purposes. I think what I believe, first of all, the 5-year plan is a miss. It's not a 5-year plan. It's gone on for 7. It never was a 5. But we're always going to collect that money forever. And
The name, I think, is confusing, Dave. It was 5 years of implementation, so that's the 5. But you're right, the name is confusing.
Yeah, and so one of the purposes of the 5-year plan originally, I was there for the construction of, basically it was to increase assessment to a certain point over a 5-year period. So it's really a collection
previous boards took the interest and
Yeah.
spent it.
The yacht club is already done, and that's, and these are what I'll call legacy assets. Those are, I can't take legacy assets, things that we have moved in, weren't fully depreciated, weren't in some cases adequate, and we had to do something. Good. 2.5 now. 2 left on the list that are clearly, now I'm not saying that they're all clearly good. And we have the yacht club, which is basically in a deficit situation. Another thing I was just doing, but nonetheless it's done. We have a deficit in the 5-year plan, which is after, and this gets a little confusing. Take out the 675 and subtract that. Yeah, that's real. And I am definitely opposed to take out the 675.
I have no idea what you're
I
talking
have no idea what you're talking
The
about.
675 turns out, go back to the reserves.
What page are you on? Reserves?
Go back to the reserves fund. 675 is an addition for this year, and it's for renovating the police station.
175 is for bridges.
Oh, there's 2 things in there. Spreadsheet. I'm sorry, you're right.
It's in the capital schedule.
Okay. So it's
Would
in the
that be
capital.
page 3? Where?
Okay, I got it.
And
Page 2,
Page 2?
down 5, capital additions, under 5-year plan, bridges, I don't know why they don't, but
if we
whatever.
take those out, and my proposal is
Sorry, where is it?
to collect the 5-year plan money
Okay.
until we erase the deficit in that line item, 5-year plan line, which can't be done this year with the million or so that we're collecting. Can be probably done next year if we don't add in. So you take out the 675, and you get an amount, and next year we're going to collect the 5-year plan money, whatever call it. And as a matter of fact, you could change it to the new name that for legacy asset improvement, and that would still be valid because, in fact, deficit is caused by a legacy asset. Yeah. All right. So there's no more 5-year plan. There's instead a legacy asset, which doesn't have to have any funding in it now because we don't know anything about what we need, what we don't get. That's the purpose of the CIP. We should know at the end of this year, or perhaps a little later, but we should have a good first order estimate how much for our legacy assets and when we're going to need it. Now, so we have to keep, in my mind, before we eliminate that $1 million, I'd like to see a moment change. Before we eliminate,
Which million? Is that the historical?
$1,098,000.
It's the 130 he's talking.
Transfer.
Okay, the transfer, the $1,098,000.
before we take the 130, let's pay back the deficit on the,
Oh.
on the,
Yeah.
5-year, pay back the deficit on that. Now, going back to Marty's suggestion, which is both roads and, drainage, golf drainage. As an alternative to what I just said, just take all of the 5-year this year and this year, reducing yacht club. We could also elect to extend that out and put some of the money this year into the that 5-year money, put it in, transfer it in golf drainage. And I have no objection to that. Deficits are deficits. The roads that's a sort of TBD, just how much. But Morty's saying that on the side of being conservative, that we're going to need more than we've got, and that
second,
Okay.
because I did read what you. We'll take them one at a time. The bridge work that you're suggesting to take out of this budget, 175,000. Well, that's what I just heard.
Yeah.
You suggest
What
we
I
take
just
it?
heard.
Yes.
I don't,
That's what I just said. That's what I just heard, which is work that, again, if you take the whole chart, that big wide chart, and it's the reserves are historical 5-year as it's known now in total, you're spending $175,000 out of those funds. In this particular case, they're listed under 5, but if we're either going to fix the bridge or we're not. If we're going to fix the bridge, we've got to spend money. So if you don't take it out of 5-year, you have to take it out of historical. So you're basically taking 175, moving it over, unless you're taking it out of the budget.
Really, by the way,
Is that right?
That's a very good point, Tom. And again, I'm trying to do this clean to erase.
Oh, I'm not arguing. I'm just trying to make sure.
And I think we certainly can take it out of this total.
Okay,
And it's
not arguing
it's a
that.
perfect match.
I just want to make sure we were what you're suggesting on the forms is 175 moves over to historical. Doesn't come out of the
I
budget.
think if we need it, I probably don't, but we can bring up bridge top and say we want the bridges in this budget or not. So where?
Well, that's really
And
where
my
we are.
proposal is, that
I just want to make sure that you weren't just arbitrarily taking the 175 out for the bridges. You're moving it to historic. 500,000 for the police building. Now, I know Bill Cordwell isn't here, but he is a professional police. You got a great experience in that. He has already made it very clear that the facility we have is not what we need for a community of our size. The 500,000 was put in. If you want to move the 500 to historical, as opposed to it being in 5 years, I don't care what column it's in. Okay? I just think that we don't take it out of the budget because it's something that clearly is already done by, I won't say that Bill is a professional police investigator in the sense of buildings you need, but he did a walkthrough of that building, what they have to, with you, and when they have to arrest people, and there's just some issues there that clearly need to be addressed. So if you want to move the 500 into historical column, I'm not going to argue with that. But I'm not going to take it out of the budget, nor would I take the bridge money out of it.
your vote would.
My vote,
My vote, the 500 would come out until we had a reserve study, an engineer said, here's what you got. I mean, with all due respect to Bill, he's not here. We walked that building, and with one of the tenants, and the big thing was they didn't have enough square footage. They needed X square feet. I took 100-foot tape out of my car, and they already had 200 more square feet, and they were looking. I mean, that building can be renovated. Now, but let's stop and talk about that. Look, our balance in reserves unaudited at the end of December was, when I say reserves, this is replacement and maintenance reserves. I don't look at it as a historical 5-year. It's a total reserve of $3,914,927. That doesn't change it, no matter what you call it. Now, we have spending identified in this budget. If we approve it as it's written, of $1,675,618. Is that correct, Art? Okay, that's spending out of our total replacement and maintenance reserves. That includes the 175 in bridge maintenance that we should have done years ago.
It's on page 2.
Well, I'm looking at that. I'm not seeing your 175.
What's that?
I'm working at page 2. I don't see your numbers. Help me out.
Okay.
Are you under the capital assets replacement
Total.
under historical?
Capital is asset replacement. Come down the
Here?
column,
Okay.
and the total spent is $1,675,618.
It's taking the two things, the bridge and police department
Yes.
in there and the capital things.
Right.
Okay.
Now,
Now I got it.
I've added that to the existing, subtracted that from the existing balance that we just spent it today. You're left with $2,239,000.
Off of the balance of April 216.
No, this balance, 12/31. I'm talking about December this year, 14.
Where do I see that? Is it on this sheet?
No, it's on your controller's report.
Okay. I have no idea where you are.
Well, here it is.
I'm sorry.
I'm not making the numbers up. That leaves you with 2,239,309. We have an approximate historical collection in this budget of $1.6 million. It's actually more than that with the interest and stuff. So now your balance in this budget, $3,839,309. That's a pretty doggone good balance in your reserve account. And I would, of course, go a step further, take the $500,000 out of the police department building. We know what we need to do. Right now, it might be $2 million. It might be $200,000.
Marty, yeah, the one thing is whether or not it's showing up. Now, what I'm recommending is to move that, Tom said, over into the historical reserve.
So it's just one reserve.
Do I think that means that money is going to be spent next year? I don't.
I don't either.
I don't think so.
You don't think the bridge money will be?
The bridge money should be.
The police department. I don't know about bridge money either, but maybe it should be. Police department is, if you want to leave it in, as in respect to Bill Cordwell, as a carryover, I don't care if it keeps carrying over from
Neither
year
of
to
those
year forever.
items affect the assessment because they're in replacement.
That's correct.
Correct.
But the
Not if you're going to add
real
it.
issue is what ought to be in replacement and what ought should it be for. And what I'm saying is we don't know. We just don't know. And we can make an honest attempt to find out. That's all we're trying to do. So we're basically putting things on hold until we do find out.
Is there a logical reason, Art, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I guess I have to because I don't this why that wouldn't, the 675 wouldn't be able to be moved over to this $1 million under the historical for the bridges in the police department because they are replacement of something
Well,
now.
the reason they're not there now is because the 5-year plan was constructed major capital projects. So it made sense when that was created, when these major capital projects come up, they are put in that column.
Okay.
What you're deciding right now, or what the board's
I'm questioning,
deliberating on,
yeah.
is changing our funding strategy for major capital projects. That's what we're
But
doing
if
right
they're
now.
replacement, those two buildings exist. The fire department exists, bridges exist. And we've been depreciating them.
They're coming out of this bucket, this whole bucket called
Okay.
capital asset replacement.
Right.
Okay, that's one bucket. What we've done over the years is put it in separate 2 different categories.
Okay.
So for tracking and funding purposes, the board 7.5 years ago, came up with a strategy, basically a savings plan to fund recognizing we have major capital projects, legacy properties, whatever the name is, of things that we would need to replace or renovate at a high dollar, and then came up with a funding strategy or funding plan to accomplish that. And then when something, police station, which is a major capital project, was identified, the funding solution was identified as this strategy. So what we're talking about today, what's going around the table, is changing the 5-year funding plan to a legacy funding strategy of some sort, and moving this column right here, the 675, into the historical, because technically it's coming out reserve fund result. Have I misstated that?
No, I don't
Pretty
think so.
close, except I don't know how far around the table this legacy asset improvement. Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
We've got an existing future projects reserve. I've never cared much for it. I think it appeared back when we sold the post office land. And it's got a deficit of $60,000 in it. Why create a new bucket? We have a bucket that's actually so empty it's converted. Why don't we use that?
Because I don't know, in my mind, and I think
Just the fact I'm talking about future. I hypothetical things ought to have you excited.
Yeah, let me just answer Marty's question. I think I have always viewed the future projects, such as it is, as the reserve for things that we don't, and that we might want to have sometime. That's been my view of it, whether it's correct.
It was created to build community centers.
What was created?
Future projects.
And where is that located?
Right here in the reserves.
There.
Yeah, it was. You're right, and that was created by the board before mine, so I refuse to consider. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I just, what I think, what we're looking at here is reserve totals, and if you put it all into one big bucket, be it, call it historical or whatever, I agree with Dave, the name of the 5-year funding program needs to be changed to something else because it is not. It's $130 a year being paid by our members to put aside money for major projects. I believe in the concept of having a major projects column, whatever you call it, so that you don't end up accidentally using the money that needs to replace trucks and cars and other things. That gets whittled away down to a very low amount of money by, what is now called historical. I think you need two columns. You need a column that's historical, which is the depreciation of your sponsors. You need a column for future planned repair, replace, whatever it is. The question is, how much money do you put into that second column? Today, we're putting $130 into that column. Call it 5-year plan, whatever you call it. That's what we're putting in there. And that has clearly served us well because we just got through building a very nice yacht club without having to borrow a dime. Now, on paper in front of you, you see a negative in the 5-year plan, which created the concept of having to pay back loan. On the books, there is no loan for the yacht club. It's paid off. The bottom line is, well, it's almost paid off. There's a holdback.
Yeah, well,
to the
again,
builder. I'm supporting what you're saying, that call it what you want. You still have to put money aside for future projects, and to assume we're not going to have any is a mistake.
Go ahead.
Going back to 2009 when this first started, Pete Domsack had what he called hypothetical projects, and I argued that we ought to fund hypothetical projects with hypothetical money. If we don't have a project, so you understand, and I know Dave understands, when I say eliminate the 5-year funding plan, I'm not talking about changing the name of what was thought up as a way to bamboozle membership.
That's not true.
It is true. I was sitting on the board, Sharon, and you weren't. It was set up.
I was
It's
sitting
not
on.
respectfully.
I was
They
sitting.
Just
bamboozle
be a
the
little
memberships.
respectful.
I was
I'm a
sitting
fellow
on the.
board member.
I was
Okay,
sitting on the
and quit
board. too.
challenging me when you don't know about what happened.
I know that.
Yeah, well, you and I disagreed on
We
that.
are not
I disagree on
bamboozling
that.
anything.
Yeah, we do disagree
They
on that.
were. They were trying to collect the money up front so they could say, we need a new country club. And guess what? We're so smart, we already have the money in the bank. I am opposed to funding any hypothetical project or any reserve account that is more. We're double the national average right now on collecting reserves. Double. And that's from the, what is that?
PCO.
Thank you. The fact is, we are collecting for hypothetical projects. Tell me one approved project we should be funding.
Do we know there's going to be replacement buildings that we have? At least as Dave
No, I
has just
don't.
stated,
Nobody funds anywhere replacement of buildings. They fund for replacement of
Actually,
parts, windows, carpet, air conditioning
well,
systems.
you know, this is a very old argument. I could go back into it. Morby and I could sit there for 3 hours apart. Don't agree. Flat out don't agree.
That's
I mean,
okay.
I believe that in fact
In that case,
our problem
that's
is
your-
finished. Ready? I'm full. What the basic purpose was to look at assets that were not appreciated to the extent that was required to replace them. There was a huge gap. I mean, I don't know what we collected for the yacht
300 is not much.
I think this was over $1 million more than depreciation.
This was
Unless the money in the bank.
This was 1,000. I mean, that situation exists, and it still exists. Okay. Now the question is, when do you have to collect money and how much? And the answer is we don't know because we don't have a CIP. We just don't.
Correct.
And we need a CIP, and we should definitely stop spending or stop adding money to that. So I'm not going to propose that we add money in for a hypothetical new beach club. I'm not proposing that at all. I'm saying once we get numbers and say, okay, here's when we're very likely to need it based on good engineering data or best we can get. That's when we start to fund it. And Marty can argue me.
I agree with that.
With me then.
I agree with
Each
what
one
you
of
said.
those things, there's only probably a handful. Well, not all of them are as big as the Country Club and Beach Club, but there are others too that are down at a lower level. But they're still fitted to that. They were here 40 years ago, and we have to do something. So, but we don't know why, and we don't know how much, and we shouldn't start saving it. I agree with Marty. We shouldn't start saving it yet. What I'm proposing here is that we continue to collect the money until we pay off what we spent. I want to reduce all of those negatives, all of those accounts, be it drainage, be it the heck, they're all negative. Future
That's not
projects,
There's two negatives.
roads, and
Roads are not
I'm not going to call it 5-year plan anymore. I'm going to call it yacht club. That's where all that's and yacht major facility. Those are all negative. I think we should get back to where we were, reduce those over the next 2 years using the same collection strategy, and reduce those down.
Before you start another new project.
Before we start another new
I hear
project.
you. But you are not suggesting we eliminate this old legacy 5-year plan, whatever name you want to have.
I want to, I think, re-examine that, and I think the CIP will help do that. But by the way,
But in this budget, you're
CIP
not, leave
is with
it alone is
community
what you're saying.
support.
In this budget, it still stays in there to going toward reducing these numbers.
I think, well, there's a couple of changes that I would recommend. One was, as Tom said, the bridges and the police. I don't care if the police stay out.
It doesn't hurt this.
It doesn't hurt. So put those under the historic reserve. We
Fine.
can all agree on those two things. So that cleans up this. So everything now under that 5-year plan deficit is related
Tell you
to
what,
the
I'm
expenditures on the yacht club. Everything.
To collect the debt you're talking about, Dave, just so we put some numbers on it. You're talking about $2.3 million needing to be collected. It's 2,367,434 divided by 2 is 1.18 million dollars of collection, which takes the one at $30 and actually makes it higher than what we're collecting right now.
Okay, now.
I just ran the numbers.
Plan 1A. And I don't consider that as being really acceptable. Okay, what I can also is that if we can agree, I believe that our historical reserves are too high. I mean, they're much higher than we've ever had before. And I know why, and I think it's another argument for another day. But what I'm suggesting right now is that some portion of those historic reserves used to reduce the deficits in the other. So in other words, we're never more than a year away from saying sayonara, the 5-year plan, and that collection forever. By that time, we will have another proposal on the table for treating the other assets that I thought, and hopefully we'll be on our way to having not only a collection plan, but a spend plan that goes along. That's my speech.
So what you're saying, all the studies you're talking about, that's going to add to it and make it more reasonable, is that correct?
What
There
studies?
were reserve studies, the engineering studies.
Oh, yeah, the reserve and the engineering are supporting things.
Yeah. That's what you need to
And,
find out. Which
but you know, this is not that hard if we get volunteers and people to help. I mean, right now you've kind of got a two-man band, though it's a good two-man band in Jerry and Ted. And Ted was adamant. We are going to do it. We're going to start it. Read a lot of this, looking at the past studies and trying to get it, as Ted calls it, a snapshot where we are. But beyond the snapshot, there's a whole lot of work that has to be done, and that's where we're going to solicit the communities. There's a general plan for this that basically goes into March. One of the things that Ted wants me to do is, he didn't say it this way, but he wants to get the chairs of the committees. And I figured, well, we usually do that in the spring, but if I move that up into March, that we can do it as an executive committee. He wants to have a public hearing sometime in March, April. Talking about these subgroups.
He is Jerry or Ted?
Ted.
Ted.
Ted and Jerry. I mean, we're all in the same conversation, and so we can move forward, get the information, and basically target is have an impact next year's budget. Have a real impact next year's budget.
This was done once before the board of directors, and I don't remember the exact days, added $150 a year to the assessment in order for them to put money in the capital reserves. The next year or the year after that, the combination of those two, or the next year and a half to 2 years, they basically moved all of that money out of capital, put it over into operations so they didn't have to raise the dues. In essence, this is exactly what's going to happen here today. If we take this $130, which is supposed to go to capital, we're now going to miraculously pay that $130 out of historical reserves. Just hear me out, because that's what I just heard you say.
You made a mistake.
Okay. All right. Then, if we're still going to collect the $130 towards capital projects, if we're still going to do that, then in the long run, I have no objection to the direction you're going, because what you're basically saying is we're going to keep collecting capital dollars, which we know we're going to need at some point, and then you define what those programs are. And I would submit that we have had lists of work from the 10-year task force and the facilities planning group, and which drove the CIP plan of 2013. You have to put a budget together based on some estimate of cost. You can't wait until a $3 million investment that has to be made is all of a sudden priced out based on engineering studies, and then miraculously you're going to go have money the next year, because you're talking about hundreds of dollars of increase in dues that next year if you haven't put the money aside. But if you're going to keep the $130 in the budget so that we pay down these debts that are on this page,
Yes.
at least for the next year,
Yes.
and not use historical dollars.
Well, I'm not saying that I wouldn't use any.
Well,
I
yeah.
think paying down some of the debt can be used with historical dollars.
Frank,
I mean, some of it.
Again,
Again,
I'm looking back in history when it was done before, when the capital dollars were taken out of an assessment, moved to operations, they had to turn right around and put the 5-year plan together in order to get the money back. And the money, that program has worked, whatever you call it. It has worked. The money is there. We have not had to borrow money from a bank. We've not had to do that. We've had the funds available when we need to do something. And that $130 in our assessment right now has kept that moving. If you want to, and I don't disagree, finish a new version of a CIP, which is another 10-year plan list, another CIP list, you get another list that is developed this year that you're more comfortable with or others are more comfortable with, that's fine. You still need to keep putting the money away, because if you use, again, you can't wait till the last minute to go get the money when you have to spend it. And Marty says we have too much money, and I will tell you right now, if you take the amount of money that was in the CIP plan in 2013, and you take away the $130 that we've been collecting, you're in the hole in the third year, depending on what you spend money on. Again, it's all a crapshoot of where you end up spending money. Okay? Now, to me, I'm not willing to artificially lower the assessment here on a bet that the new CIP plan is going to push construction out to where, let me finish, okay? Because that's what I'm hearing when I hear use historical dollars to pay off debt. Well, that's what I'm hearing you say. You're saying keep the 130 in, but then pay it off with historical. Well, to me, stay the course with the money we're collecting, put it whatever column you want to put it in. If you want to use it to buy down the negatives that are on this page, fine. Do it. By the time you do that, you will have the new CIP done for next year's budget, and you can decide what to do. So I am not against taking the 130 and applying it to the 2.3 million that we have as a debt on this page, which includes golf drainage and roads, which is $22,000, and we haven't even talked about adding roads to the.
Well, actually, sorry, but I mean, you have to take the whole thing. You can't just
Well, but
go one at a
unfortunately,
time. And
again,
if you
I
don't buy- if you
put
don't buy
them
the big
together.
picture,
I put them together.
Yeah.
I put the whole thing together when I ran my numbers. When I ran the numbers, it came out that if you want to finish, we've got to. You guys aren't comfortable with the road plan. I think it is categorically a mistake to make the mistake that was made years ago when they pulled $150 of capital money out of the assessment and in essence used it for something. I think it's a mistake. I think it's the right thing to do is to get the roads study determined. I'm happy with what I've seen, but you're not. Others aren't. You get the CIP done, and you don't artificially lower the assessment of our members, which is what was done back then.
Yeah, but
It's a mistake.
This is not about lowering
where in
assessments,
what I
you guys
say
say.
did I ever mention lower assessment? I
So,
didn't.
so
Okay,
far,
I didn't say
we're up
you
to
did.
about 960.
But why
I
are
just want to
you
clarify.
saying
Am I correct, Dave? You're still saying keep that 5-year plan in this budget?
Say it. If you say it, you know where I'm going.
Yeah, but we're not, I am saying that in order to pay down the deficit in the current 5-year plan, which is $1,644,000, assuming that I moved that
Say it
675.
again. How much is it? It's $1,456,000.
Actually, it's $2 million.
No. Now you're continuing to spend out of that. As of December, it's $1,456,000. We have a total balance of replacement reserves as of
Marty,
December.
can I just finish for God's sake?
Finish and answer her question. Are you going to keep the 5-year funding plan, call it whatever you want, so I can pack up and get the hell out of here?
What I am going to do, we have right now, about the 675. We have $2,300,000. If you move the 675 negative out, $2,300,000 in there, and that money is all due to the yacht. That's a deficit that's due to the yacht. It exists. It exists. Okay. What I want to do is collect this year and next year to eliminate that deficit. I want to continue.
So you're
to
keeping the
collect.
5-year plan in its
Yeah, I'm not going to call it
Keep
that.
it to 130.
whatever name you want to call it, I don't care. But the concept is there.
I'll call it deficit reduction.
Whatever name you call it, I don't care. But you're not eliminating it.
135.
I am not in favor of eliminating. I am in favor of keeping the budget. Don't double think. Okay.
I don't know what you just
It
said.
ain't. I don't know how you
Just keep it at
I don't know how
130.
you get $1.4 million deficit as of December, $2 million. I don't know how you do that unless you're continuing to spend out of that 5-year funding plan. Right now, December 31st, $1,456,632. reserves, replacement, has a balance, positive, $3,000,009.
What are you reading from?
Your latest controller's report.
I'm looking at the budget, Marty. We're not talking.
Thank you, and therein lies your problem.
Well-
I'm looking at real, you're looking at projections.
It's a budget meeting.
I understand that, but you're making budget decisions based on BS.
Really?
Yes, here's your balance right here. Is this correct?
As of
December
That
31st. Thank you very much.
now,
How
as
does it
of
get
April
bigger?
30th.
It gets bigger because we continue to spend. Look, I remember when this was all done also. I don't remember anybody using money to offset operations. We built this building. We did other things. The fact is, if it hadn't been for Cecil Banks saying no, we'd own the golf.
That's a different topic.
It is not a different
It
topic.
is
It's
a
what happens when
different
we get
topic.
people like this board of $6 million.
It is a
slush
different
fund.
topic. What right now the topic on the table is the reserve, and what we're going to do about it.
Put it on the table. Let's have a vote. I would like to get
I'd like to put it on the table, but I keep getting interrupted. Now let me continue, Tom. What I am suggesting, moving the 675,000, just getting that out of it, move it over.
To
What I'm
historical.
suggesting is that the remaining money, which is up to 2.3 million, which would be that would be then oh no, I'm sorry, that would reduce down to $1 million, roughly, because put this negative 675.
Okay, you were adding, not subtracting.
Yeah, I was in that correct. So now we're down to about $1 million left in the reserve and 5-year plan at deficit, roughly, whatever the number is. It's around $1 million. Okay.
Minus
What I am
that,
suggesting
and this
is
number now
that
is
this year's
75
money,
less.
Years to pay that down.
and, well, we already put this year's money. Next year's money would eliminate it.
And that's assuming no expenditures.
That's assuming no expenditures. That's a good point.
So it's 9,
And I am saying no expenditures is part of what we're proposing here.
Just to make sure we've got a ton of numbers out here, Vince.
It's just making tennis.
If we take the balance as of April 30th, 2015, that's in the middle of the page, okay?
Yeah.
You add what is called now the 5-year plan negative. You add projects, future projects negative, roads negative, Gulf drainage negative. Add those together, it's $2.8 million. All those together is $2.8 million.
Okay.
Okay? If you're proposing to take to basically keep the 130 and pay that down, I'm with you.
Wow. Can you say that, what you just said before that? You came up with a $2 million number.
Add 2,061,799.
Yeah.
What's that?
72.
Right in the middle of the
Oh,
page.
you're in the wrong column.
I'm not even talking about what the effect is. I'm taking off real numbers of the projection of the industry.
Okay, so
2,061, a 64,555, 72,696, and 643,541. Those negatives add up to $2.8 million.
But
And
I thought we'd already just agreed that we were going to put the 5-year fund as part of the historic reserves in one fund.
No,
That's a
no, we
positive
did not agree
balance
to
of
that.
3,157.
No, we did not agree to
Oh,
that.
wait a second.
See, here's what I see in negative. I
That's the
see
675
future projects, 60 and a half. Roads at 72 and a half. And the Gulf drainage, which we're supposedly financing, at 643.5. So that's less than $800,000 in negative.
If you wipe out the historical account and make it zero,
You've got a balance of 3,157,594 in reserves.
What we're talking about, not the first column yet, but in our conversation. Right now, just looking at negatives, yeah, it's just negative.
You add them all together, you come up with
2.8 million.
331 positive.
Well, get them all together, and,
It's right here on the column, 331.
yeah, but that includes the historical reserve.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm trying to say is forgetting the historical work reserve, time being, you have $2.8 million negatives. Okay. I want to eliminate and
not use historical reserves?
I didn't say that yet. Let me get finished. Okay, I want to start by taking entire 1.98 that we did, 1.098, 1 million, and I'm going to use that to reduce it down, which it actually already is, and I'm going to use it again, reduce it down next year. Now, that's going to come. We still have those other negatives that are in there, so that's only really, we take 2 million, so we're about $800,000, which is probably pretty close to what's in the negatives for golf drainage. So, now where did we borrow the golf drainage money from?
Historical.
Historical reserves. Now I'm at historical reserves. What I'm suggesting is that with $5 million proposed, $5,800,000 ending the year in historical reserves, that we can very definitely use the historical reserves to pay off the negatives in those other columns. Now we have a number in historical.
Is that
reserves.
kind of creative financing?
It's not creative financing.
Okay, you're taking 5,805,000, which is the bottom left column balance April 30th, and actually that number is now higher or lower by 675,000.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So now we have 5.2.
Okay, so we have 5.2 million, and what you're saying now is to take under the future projects the 60,000, under the roads the 72,000, and off the golf drainage 643. Add those numbers and take them off that number. Is that what you're saying?
You're saying take 690,
Yeah.
using mid-page numbers.
I was looking at
$692,686 out of historical reserves to zero out future projects, roads, and golf drainage.
That's right. Yeah.
That's 776.
Yeah, whatever.
So you end up with about a $3 million.
Sharon, that's where we took it from to begin with.
I just want to understand what you're doing, Dave.
This isn't creative, okay? It's just, that's where the money came. Now we're saying, pay it back. Now, we do have.
Is this golf drainage number? I need a clarification. 643 number golf drainage. Is that money we have spent, or is that money been put aside? We have spent that, so we are short of 640.
You know what? I'd really like to have more time to think about this. I really would. I really would.
I sent this out.
I really do. In all fairness, I think I got to crunch some numbers here to make sure that
I sent this out to these guys, but I'm trying to, make sure that we get concept. I think we got concept.
I got the concept.
Now, what the net result?
I'm not sure I did.
The net result of this, Marty, or different than what is that we are not reducing assessments as a result of this year. Now, let me just say this. This is just
Well, so far we've
quite
increased
frankly,
it rather drastic.
what the assessment.
Yeah.
How?
Well, you're up to $952, and we still got columns to look at.
Oh, increased it. Okay, yeah, you're right. You're correct. I have sort of noticed that. But, okay, so in terms of the reserves, we're still collecting that $135 falling to something different. At the specific purpose, and there's a specific end date for it, too. There is an end date. The end date is when...
Can I tell you my end date? My end date is right now. I'm announcing to the press I'm not running.
Okay. Good.
So you got, and I probably should leave meetings early now.
I know. Yeah, well.
There's no such thing as a
So
majority.
that's my proposal is that
Good luck.
we will collect on it. Stop one.
No, I'm not
I don't
stopping.
care. You know, do whatever you need to do.
Do what makes me happy. It sure isn't doing stupid budgets.
Well, that's my proposal. And basically, I think it's, we take, now,
You'll certainly
the
get 5
difference,
votes for that.
the difference is that there's a specific answer to that question. Now, will there be additional monies that are at the, yeah.
Based on the
My,
CIP.
my guess is that based on the CIP and extended, that those additional, and taking into account that we're still collecting the same amount of historical reserves, that'll go down drastically. And that's just my feeling about it. But it is, once
You're
these
trying to
things are
clean
off-
up this whole page of all these negatives and pay them off through what's in our
Some of
historical
Some of
reserves.
it.
Make sure, Sharon,
I'm just trying
I
to.
want to make
understand.
sure you and I, in fact,
Yeah.
understand
Yeah, I
what
wanna
is
make sure I
getting put
understand.
out. What you're saying is, and I'm using the middle numbers in the middle of the page, adding the 60,000 to 72,000 to 643,000, which in the actual numbers
682.
adds up to $776,000. You are proposing to take, in essence, since we took it out of historical to begin with, per se, you are saying that you used $776,000 out of historical, basically zero those out, and then continue to collect the money to, in essence, pay off it. For however you want to phrase it.
For next year.
For next year, you keep taking the 130, and then some period of time following year, that has now been zeroed out. And by that time, we will have the new CIP plan, which can then establish in the budget, again, how much money needs to go into a major program.
Yeah, which I believe will be substantially less than the 135.
But
It
Tom,
could be.
there's something else. Aren't we moving the 675, the 5 plan over to historical? We're taking that out also, correct? The 675, the bottom line, your capital additions. Isn't that what you're doing,
So that's,
Dave? Is
what are
that
you doing with the
saying?
675 that was going to be spent out of,
That goes back into the historical.
That goes back to historical. Okay, so that's
you got to pay that off too.
That's a minus too.
Well, you don't pay it off. I mean, it comes out of historical reserve. You spend it.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that.
Well, you
Just
don't
wanna make sure we
spend.
got that.
Actually, in this case, you don't spend. Probably. But you might. It's in the budget.
I got to, if you don't mind, I got to think about it. I'm not saying no, just want
I don't mind, but try and get back to me as soon as we can.
That's an interesting concept.
No.
Marty's gonna-
When I wrote you the thing, I said, no, this is going down.
Yeah, you did say that.
Oh, no, I'm not.
But,
That 5-year funding plan's in the budget. I'm gone. Period. And you guys can take it or leave it.
Taking 5.
It's not.
we are,
Change it away.
It's going to change the name.
Can we change the roads?
you changed the
Because I have a proposal on roads.
Okay, what's that?
How about a 3-minute break to get some cookies or crackers or something? Because I am really hungry.
I wouldn't get one.
Do we have to?
There's a machine up there.
Oh, okay.
Is it, I mean, I just need a 5-minute break.
5-minute
Okay.
break.